Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some more RTD News updates. And as you can tell from today's title, Kentucky pension crisis leads to a credit downgrade. I'm going to be covering a couple articles from this past week dealing with the current pension situation in the state of Kentucky and some of the ramifications it might have for future retirees as we look to give more light and shine more light on the subject of pension and retirement and things like that. So I want to take a minute to announce the winner of the 1883 RTD Silver giveaway from last week. It is Mr. John Garris from Virginia. I want to thank you, John, for participating in the RTD giveaway. It was definitely fun to be able to have you share some of the RTD University videos on your Facebook page, and congratulations on getting that coin. Before I actually dive into those 5 articles that I have available for you, I want to share with you a graph/visual aid that I came across on the internet that kind of paints a picture of how bad the situation is as far as it not being enough funds going in, but there's more going out. So here I have a visual aid called Falling Further Behind, and it paints a picture of how they've been basically not funding their retirement pension system there for quite a while, predominantly over the last decade from 2004 up until fourth quarter of last year. And so back in 2004, it was 85% funded, whereas in this last year, it was only 16% funded. So some of the things that they're trying to do now is kind of a way of shining light onto this, as well as solve this matter here, which at the end of the day, is going to be a matter of there's not enough revenue coming in, but there's more expenditures going out. And so I want to dive into that. But before we get into that, as always, if you're new to RTD, I want to encourage you to click the subscribe button for more updates as well as news, interviews. And if you're new to RTD, I want to encourage you to visit the RTD University page, where I post my past 70 interviews dealing with monetary issues such as pensions, retirement savings, the dollar, fiat currencies, world events, as well as our monetary system that can help shine some light on the idea of that our monetary system is not everything that we were told or not taught. But other than that, let's dive into today's news. So today I have 5 articles I want to share with you, all dealing with pensions and predominantly what's happening in Kentucky, with a little bit of Chicago sprinkled in at the very end. And so as always, I'm going to just give you an idea of what's on the surface. And if you are interested in finding out more about these subject matters and these articles, feel free to click the link below to be directed to the Rethinking a Dollar blog page, where you can get all the links needed to read the full articles to find out even more if you're interested. So let's dive into today's news with the very first one here from WFPL.org, or 89.3 out of Kentucky, and it's entitled "Kentucky's Credit Rating Downgraded, Citing Pension and Revenue Woes." The very next article here is from Courier Journal, and it says, "Can public pension benefits be cut? Kentucky officials looking into it." The next one here is from the Lane Report, and it says, "Speaker Hoover calls House members in to talk pensions." It says, "Kentucky credit rating downgraded again." And then the very next one here is from Fortune.com, and it says, "Retirements, your pension plan has a big hedge fund problem." And then what's interesting is it shows a burning $100 bill. And then the very last one here is from the Chicago Tribune, and it says, "Morning Spin." It says, "Wall Street agency, Chicago will need $1.3 billion more for pensions by 2023. So let's dive into the very first one. Here we have Kentucky's credit rating downgraded. So I'll give you an idea what's going on here. And as always, feel free to read more for yourself if interested. It says, Moody has downgraded Kentucky's credit rating because of the low funding levels of the state pension systems and lackluster revenue gleaned from taxes. It says, the news comes after the state missed its own revenue prediction by $135 million at the end of the last fiscal year, which finished on June 30th. It quotes here, says, "The downgrade reflects revenue underperformance that will challenge the Commonwealth's ability to increase its very low pension fund levels," Moody's wrote in a news release. It says, "The Commonwealth has one of the heaviest underfunded pension burdens of all states. So the Commonwealth's high fixed costs will also restrict fiscal flexibility." And so here it says, "The credit rating agency estimates Kentucky has a more than $70 billion public pension shortfall, a higher amount than the state's official estimate of $37 billion, which relies on more optimistic predictions." It says here, Governor Matt Bevin enacted a combination of spending cuts and financial maneuvers to fill the shortfall, and used the development to make another pitch for the state to reform its tax code and alter its pension programs. So once again, some of the things they're going to try to do is to, as it says, reform tax code as well as alter pension programs. So in the day, alter tax code means eventually tax more people to come up with that revenue. So it's not really going to be much of a reform. It's going to be more so of a try to raise taxes somewhere and try to cut minimum spending expenditures somewhere else on less more important things. And it says Bevan's budget director John Chilton says the state needs to have another $700 million per year to tackle the pension crisis, a significant chunk of the state's $10.6 billion budget. So another $700 million. Interesting. Where's that going to come from? Higher taxes. So if you're interested in reading out more and finding out more details about this, feel free to read this link here. Very next one here is from Courier Journal. It says, can public pension benefits be cut? So a part of the idea of not only reforming tax code is going to be how can we skim off and cut back on some of these promises we made by cutting benefit payouts. So here we have from Frankfort, Kentucky. It says, advocates for public employees and teachers in Kentucky are uneasy as Governor Matt Bevin prepares to call a special legislative session to stabilize Kentucky's public pension crisis. It says for decades, the workers, some of whom cannot receive Social Security, have been protected by the state laws that recognize their pension benefits as an inviolable contract, guaranteeing them the rights to benefits they earn under the plan they signed up under when hired. It says, but Kentucky's pension crisis has grown. The state now has at least $40 billion in unfunded pension liabilities. So other one said 36, now it says 40, but yet in actuality it said something like 70. So, it seems like the numbers are a little off all the way around. It says, and officials and workers advocates said likely will require some sort of unprecedented and unpopular action. So this unprecedented and unpopular action is going to ultimately lead to some type of cut in payout. It says Chris McDaniel, the Taylor Mill Republican who chairs the Senate Budget Committee, said he's not trying to scare people, but the state is at a point where we cannot make pension payments and deliver essential services. It's impossible. So here we go right here. It says where we cannot make pension payments and deliver essential services. So that means somewhere along the line, because there's only this much money in a pool, someone's going to take a haircut, whether it's going to be some services such as probably the trash or the water or any type of service being provided by the state will be cut, or the quality of it will be cut, or there's going to be a haircut in the form of some pension payouts being downgraded, certain percentage monthly, which is going to make a lot of retirees, those that are expecting to receive payments, very angry. And it's going to put into question those that are approaching their retirement age as to whether or not they'll be able to receive what they were promised as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all unravels. So there's more into this article. If you're interested, feel free to scroll down below. The very next one here is from the Lane Report, and it talks more so about the downgrading as well as the pending House members, and it's going to be talking about what to do with these pensions. Give you an idea what's going on here. It says, as time begins to run out of special session 2017, conversations are ramping up around the possibility of reforms of the state's pension system and tax code. As House Speaker Hoover has confirmed, he will call all 100 members of the House back to Frankfort to discuss the issues in the coming months. It says, according to the story first reported by Lexington Herald Leader, Hoover will be calling all House members to the Capitol on August 16th. So as of next month, they're going to bring members up to date on the budget, tax reform, and pension reform. It says it's dated significant as Governor Matt Bevin recently stated that a special session to tackle pension and tax reform will be called sometime after August 15th. So they're basically narrowing down in on the date where they're going to sit down and argue amongst each other on how they're going to not be able to do much about this. It says, meanwhile, Kentucky's credit rating was downgraded by Moody's to an AAA rating. The agency warned bond investors that the state does not collect enough revenue to resolve public pension shortfall amounting to billions of dollars. It says in a recent report published by the Moody's, the group once again downgraded the state's lead credit rating, citing the unfunded liability in Kentucky pension system continuing to grow and becoming one of the worst in the nation. So it's not good when you're downgraded credit rating, because that means that your ability and the confidence in you being able to repay your debt is not looking pretty good. So it's going to be that much harder to borrow at higher borrowing costs. So interesting there, but yeah, we'll see how this session goes in August as far as what some of the solutions will be as far as this tax reform and pension ordeal they're going to try to deal with. So more interested, if you're interested, scroll down below. Next one here is from Fortune. This deals with the whole pension concept in general and how hedge funds hedge funds are involved in this. It says, retirement, your pension plan has a big hedge fund problem. It says, if you're one of the 25% of non-retirees who are still lucky enough to look forward to a pension, congratulations. But don't get too comfortable, because there's a good chance your pension plan is taking on a questionable investing strategy. It says, since 2005, state and local pension plans have sharply increased their exposure to alternative investments, including private equity, real estate, and hedge funds, from 9% of portfolios on average to 24%. Says that was an understandable reaction to scary declines in the stock market, but it has turned out to be a poor decision, especially where hedge funds are concerned. Says looking at the results of this shift, researchers at the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College found that plans that increased their exposure to an alternative investment to at least 10% of the portfolio between 2005 and 2015 saw annual returns that were 0.3% percentage points below the plans that had less than 10% in alternative investments from 2020 to 2015. It says, when breaking out the alternative investments and returns, the researchers found a statistical link between investments in hedge funds and even sharper declines in portfolio returns. It says, among the plans that increased their exposure to hedge funds to at least 10% of the portfolio, the average plan performed annually 0.48% points worse than 2005-2015. So basically, all those alternative investments that the hedge funds are getting into are a little bit riskier and therefore not returning what they were looking to return. So they're saying that those that are invested in that may not be in good shape long term. And so I wonder what some of the alternative investments they're referring to are. I would imagine they're probably junk bonds and things like that. And you scroll down a little bit more, it says here, the hedge funds as an investment has been under attack for years due to the high fees and poor investment results. It says most notably, Warren Buffett bet that his S&P 500 index fund could outperform a group of hedge funds over a decade. It says his total returns, which he shared in February, were 85.4% compared to 22% for the group of hedge funds. So Mr. Warren Buffett turned a pretty good profit there. Because of market conditions, hedge funds have kind of, explored alternative ways of investing funds for returns, of which now that model that they've gotten hooked on over the last decade or so has shifted to where they're not really making the type of returns that is going to be comfortable for retirees down the line. So definitely, I'm sure there's more to this article here, but yeah, this gives an idea of the hedge funds are practicing what could be considered old investment strategies. So just something to take a look into or consider if you're perhaps involved in some of this type of retirement portfolio allocations here. So more information, if you're interested, feel free to read this link. Very last article here is from Chicago Tribune. It says, morning spin, Wall Street agency Chicago will need $1.3 billion more for pensions by 2023. So here we have a picture of Ron Emanuel. It says presided over Chicago City Council meeting this past Wednesday. And it says here, it says top spin, the pain of new taxes in Chicago is not over. A Wall Street debt rating agency predicted this week. Still, a Kroll bond rating agency report says Chicago is making progress in fixing its financial woes and cannot weather the continuing storm. By 2023, the city will have to come up with up to $1.3 billion in new revenue and spending reductions to meet scheduled contributions to the city's 4 pension funds and make rising debt payments, the agency estimated. It said on top of that, the Chicago public schools and other local taxing bodies could need nearly $339 million more to meet those costs. It says new taxes coupled with many spending reductions at the city, CPS, Cook County, and other governments could come to as much as $1.66 billion by 2023, Kroll concluded. Of course, the dynamics could change over time depending on the economy, whether CPS gets the extra money it seeks from the state government and Chicago's overall finances. It says that comes on top of the $1.4 billion in annual revenue by the Tribune's count. The city already has approved since Mayor Ron Emanuel took office in 2011. It says the mayor inherited a city budget balance precariously with one-time revenues, floundering city worker pensions, and generous union contracts. It says most of the new money, $823 million, comes in form of high property taxes, a new water service tax, and an increased 9/11 telephone fee, all dedicated to increase the pension contribution. It says the bulk of the rest is a form of higher water services fees being used to upgrade the city's aging water system. Wow, that's a lot of money there. It says CPS, meanwhile, has increased property taxes by more than $477 million to cover education costs, construction, and pension contributions since 2011. So those are a lot of numbers thrown out there. 1.6 billion, 823 million. We got 477 million. So all those additional taxes that have been added onto the people's backs as far as the property, and it says, I saw something about a soda tax fee. They're trying to tax people on soda or pop, as we call it here in Michigan. But other than that, those are just some things happening in the news. Wanted to get this out to you today to let you know that there's a lot of news going on outside of the mainstream narrative in regards to pensions and retirements that, as I mentioned before in prior news updates, it's going to be more and more every month of how states are underfunded, and there's going to be problems where retirees and soon-to-be retirees are going to become very concerned on the idea that they may not be receiving what they were promised, which is going to lead to more mess, because eventually if these states begin to really suffer massive shortages of being underfunded, then the federal government may have to get involved, and that leads to all types of additional expenditures from the federal level, which is going to just ultimately lead to more money printing and more debasement of our currency as it is. So other than that, just wanted to put some news out there. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have some more articles relevant to what's going on in Chicago, Kentucky, feel free to share those with me. I would love to do more of a update on what's happening down there in those states, and as well as in the city of Chicago. So other than that, enjoy your day. Look forward to bringing you more news. Thanks.